Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more ancient knowledge. Today we are going to be doing the beginnings, really, of a deep dive into the Corpus Hermeticum. This is an interesting one because I have perused it, but I have never deep dived it or read it all the way through myself. I've never done the actual scut work to get involved, and I read through the first chapter today in order to do this video, and we're going to talk about things real quick. We talk often, and hopefully often enough, about levels of responsibility, that you can only do that which you are aware of, right? You can only understand prophecy through the things that you know, right? You are only held responsible for the level of knowledge that you are at. This video today will be a level of responsibility video that has things that go along with it. There are other videos that better dive into the things that are involved with it. If you look at the 8 Laws of Creation, for example, in the Infinite Integrations playlist, it tells you about the necessities that are to be put in place for your own protection before you attempt to do any of the things that are contained anywhere. All things that you actually need are contained in this first chapter. There are multiple levels of responsibility that can be attained from this first chapter alone. Some of it, I don't know whether it has been interpreted correctly or not by other people, but there are close resemblances to my own personal experience, and I will be talking about that, about my own procedures and things as we go along, and the things that I personally believe in addition to the Corpus Hermeticum. I feel like the things that I have experienced and the things that I am bringing to the table add some more knowledge to it. It is a casting of pearls. It is for those who seek knowledge and those who wish a greater understanding. I have taken upon myself the responsibility for several levels of giving. And so, by referring you to these other things, I am highly encouraging you to check out. You can do the things contained in the proper manner, and that absolves me from the responsibility of you seeking the knowledge. This type of information used to only be conveyed in a face-to-face master-pupil tutor type of situation. I am not bothering with that, and there is a level of responsibility that goes along with that, but I am fulfilling that by referring you to these other videos for the third time. Okay, now let's dive into the Corpus Hermeticum. This is from Thrice Great Hermes, Volume 2 by G.R.S. Mead. This is a freely available text. It is not my works, right? I am adding things to it, but this text is not mine. It belongs way back in antiquity. We did the introduction video. It will also be linked at the top so that you can go back and see the whole introduction to this. All right, let me grab my glasses and we will dive in. Pomandres, the shepherd of men. It chanced once on a time my mind was meditating on the things that are. My thought was raised to a great height, the senses of my body being held back, just as men who are weighed down with sleep after a fill of food, or from fatigue of body. Methought a being more than vast, in size beyond all bounds, called out my name and said, "What wouldst thou hear and see, and what hast thou in mind to learn and know?" Okay, so this is meditation. If you have not made a practice of meditation in your life, I highly recommend it. There are 3 key components to a good, healthy spiritual life: prayer, fasting, and meditation. Prayer is when you talk to God, when you direct the thoughts, when you do the things that determine what is coming. Fasting prepares your body to receive the message from God, and meditation is where you shut up and you let God talk to you. It chanced once on a time my mind was meditating on the things that are, and my thought was raised to a great height, the senses of my body being held back. That is exactly what happens. Your mind resides somewhere along the 7 points inside your body most of the time. Where that is depends in large part about where you are in your spiritual journey and how you are working on your shadow in the current moment. Some of it has to do with this other stuff that I do. You can see some of it on the board behind me, but it's linked up here where I deal with MBTI. All of that ties in together, but meditating is when you receive the information back and you lose your senses. When you are in a meditative state, you keep your mind, you are awake, you are not asleep, but you lose the sense of feeling, right? You become at one with everything around you. It is as though your body has dissolved into the air around you. That is how it works with meditation. Your mind quiets, your thoughts go up, and then your senses fade away. He thought a being more vast in size beyond all bounds, called out the name and said, "What would you see and hear, and what has you in mind to learn and know?" That is also a fairly common experience if you are doing meditation correctly. And I do say, "Who art thou?" And he saith, "I am man, shepherd, mind of all masterhood. I know what thou desires, and I am with thee everywhere." I reply, I long to learn the things that are and comprehend their nature and know God. This is, I said, what I desire to hear. And he answered back to me, "Hold in thy mind all thou wouldst know, and I will teach thee." I have what's called aphantasia. If you're familiar with the story and you've watched the other videos, you know, but that means that I cannot willfully visualize anything on my own. Some people will take you through a meditation, whether you are guided down steps or through waterfalls or into a house or all of these things. I can't do any of those. What I can do is hold the concept of. That's hard for people who don't suffer from what I particularly am afflicted with, right? It's not a disease. It's not going to kill me, but y'all have a superpower. If you can envision things willfully, that is a superpower that I am deprived of. But maybe that is made up for by the thought of the concept of, because I can hold the concept of and do most of the things that you can do with visualizing. So for me, as an aphantasiac, holding in their mind is you go into the meditation with the thought in a box. I've talked about the boxes before. You have a box for each one of your chakras and all of these things. And the thing that you want to meditate upon is the thing that you want to materialize. How that works, we won't get into. I've already gotten into, but we will get into at a different point. But there is a box that you place the desire of manifestation in. That is what this is talking about right here. If you hold the thought of in the box, in the proper place, in the circle, then you get the manifestation. And even with these words, his aspect changed, and straightway, in the twinkling of an eye, all things were open to me, and I see a vision limitless. All things turned into light, sweet, joyous light. And I became transported as I gazed. But in a little while, darkness came settling down on part of it, awesome and gloomy, coiling in sinuous folds, so that I methought it like unto a snake. And then the darkness changed into some sort of a moist nature, tossed about beyond all power of words, belching out smoke as from a fire, and groaning forth a wailing sound that beggars all description. And after that, an outcry, inarticulate, came forth from it, as though it were a voice of fire. My first willful revelatory experience, right? I went into meditation asking for and received the vision thereof of this, right? Completely devoid of this description being in my repertoire. Now, I cannot hold that I didn't know about the Big Bang or the various theories of science that contain it, but what I asked for and what I received was this. Like this right here is described. It was me being held by something way bigger than me. So big that I couldn't even conceive how big it was. And I didn't see a person, right? But I felt as though I was carried through the creation of the universe. I saw the things come into being. I saw the light become. This is what I personally have saw. I can personally attest to this, and you don't know me from real life. I could be lying to you, but I'm not. I play by the rules. And so this is what I saw in my very first revelatory experience, right? It's not things that were put upon me without my will, but things that I went seeking into. I asked for this and I received this, and this was what I saw, down to the point of the spiral nature that looks like a snake. And so I can attest to this particular point. Thereon, out of the light, a holy word descended on that nature, and afterwards to the height from the moist nature leaped forth pure fire. Light was it, swift and active too. And the air, too, being light, followed after the fire, from out the earth and water rising up to the fire, so that it seemed to hang therefrom. But earth and water stayed so mingled with each other that earth from water no one could discern. Yet they moved to hear by reason of the spirit word, logos, pervading them. I have other videos talking about the harmonics of life, the 8 stages of development, the 8 fundamental harmonics of life, and how the transversal through them are what constitutes our experience in this reality. There are 8 different stages of earth, there are 8 different stages of the air, and there are 8 stages of the space. Now, you have the waters below. The waters below are the earth and the sea. You have the waters above, which are the heavens and the stars, and then you have the waters herein. And we are in the waters of the air. It is merely a change in frequency. It is not it is not necessarily corporeal in the way that people think of corporealism. Everything is indeed a vibration. Every single piece of matter broken down into a single element consists of protons, neutrons, and electrons, right? Spinning, moving. And so there is no real solid. There is only the appearance thereof. Now, there are things that are more solid than we are, and that is the physical reality. But also in physical reality, everything inside of the hardest thing is moving. It's infinitesimal. It is tiny. You can barely sense it in any way, shape, or form. But it can be sensed. It is a thing, and it is a fundamental truth of all things. Everything is a vibration and is manipulated from a vibration. Everything springs forth from these elements that are listed in this particular chapter. The separation of the waters is what's being described right here, and the waters make up the entirety of everything. Then saith to me, man shepherd, didst this vision what it means? Didst understand this vision what it means? Nay, that shall I know, I said. That light, he said, am I, thy God, mind. Prior to moist nature, which appeared from darkness, the light word that appeared from mind is Son of God. What then, say I? Know that what sees in thee and hears is the Lord's word. But mind is Father God, Not separate are they from one another. Just in their union is it life consists. Thanks be to thee, I said. So understand the light, he answered, and make friends with it. The light is the creation. It is the things that are. There is a Trinity, right? It's not Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It is body, mind, and spirit. Now, there are various incarnations of body, mind, and spirit, but that is what they are. There is the body. It's the meat suit. It is the thing which you animate. Then you have the mind. The mind is the part that thinks. It is the separate individual piece of God that is placed inside the meat suit. You make the decisions. You are the shot caller inside the meat suit. And then you have the spirit. The spirit is the part that does. It is the logos. It is the word. The act of speaking creates. There is power in words. There is power in correctly pronouncing words. There is power in knowing names. There is power in the spoken tongue. And so the logos is spoken into existence and becomes by being spoken. It is the act of becoming. It is the part that keeps you breathing when you're not thinking about breathing. It is the part that keeps your heart beating at the appropriate pace in order for you to stay alive. It is the part that regulates your temperature. It is the things that you don't have control of, but you can. You can control your breath. You can control your heart, not advised, but you can do it. And so there are ways that you can manipulate your temperature up and down. These are things that are controlled by the logos, but not by your mind, right? It is as if your mind were split in two. But even more than that, there's a part inside of your mind that enables that to happen. I think we covered enough bases on logos here. We will get back into this part of it as we go along. And I'm trying to keep this incremental so that it makes sense by the time we get to the end. And speaking thus, he gazed for long into my eyes, so that I trembled at the look of him. But when he raised his head, I see in mine the light. But now, in powers no man can number, the cosmos grown beyond all bounds, and that fire was compassed round almost by a mighty power, and now subdued had come unto a stand. And when I saw these things, I understood by reason of man shepherd's word. All right, so this is just an expansion of the vision. But as I was in great astonishment, he saith to me again, Thou didst behold in mind the archetypal form, whose being is before beginning without end. And thus spoke to me man shepherd. And I say, Whence then have nature's elements their being? And to this he answer gives, From will of God. Nature received the word, and gazing on the cosmos beautiful, did copy it, making herself into a cosmos, by means of her own elements, and by the births of souls. Okay, theology time. I have done a Bible study. It is probably linked up here in the top corner too, and it is called Unconventional because it's a bit unconventional. I don't hold the common beliefs that you would expect from somebody who did a Bible study. And that summarizes down to this particular spiel right here. I believe that we are all, each individually, a divine incarnation. That is not to say that any of us are ever at all God, right? We are a tiny little fraction of what God could possibly be. We are as if we were a piece of the fingernail of God. We're not even a whole nail, much less the finger, much less the hand, much less the arm, right? We are a piece of a fingernail. We are here so that the eternal, being eternal, can experience the non-eternal. God can't know sorrow because for him there is no end or beginning. He is beyond that, but he can experience that through us. I also believe that we each, prior to being here, because the soul is immortal. It was somewheres before it was here. It will be somewheres after. And I believe that before we were here, we each all came together with everyone that we will ever meet in our lives and said, hey, I'm going to learn this particular lesson from you. Some of those lessons are great. Some of those lessons are absolutely horrible. Some of those lessons are to not get to learn them and to go home early, right? Some of those lessons are to be the object of grief. And some of those lessons are to be the one who grieves. All of that is so that God himself can experience grief. There are a myriad of reasons why there should be experience, and not all of them are good. How can you know the bounty of being provided for unless you have not been provided for, right? You don't appreciate the things that you get after you have not had them. And so that is the nature of the experience that we are here for. We are here voluntarily. It is not a prison. That is silly. There is not some machinations to keep you down other than your own willful desires. That is what holds you down. You are part of the creative logos of God, right? The part that sits in your mind that makes the decisions is a piece of God. The Spirit enables that. That is the part that makes you breathe and move and do and create, right? You make the choices. The Spirit enables that to happen. The body is just so that you can have the experience. And God the mind. Hold on, I'm going to get some water. And God, the mind, being male and female both, as light and life subsisting, brought forth another mind to give things form, who, God, as he was of fire and spirit, formed 7 rulers, who enclose the cosmos that the sense perceives. Men call their ruling fate. Straight away from the downward elements of God's reason leaped up to nature's pure formation, and was at one with the formative mind, for it was coessential with it, and nature's downward elements were thus left reasonless, so as to be pure matter. Alright, so I don't want to get too far before we stop, but God the mind, being male and female both, as light and life subsisting. There is no separation between good and evil per se. There is absolutely good and evil objective acts. There are acts of self-sacrifice for the betterment of others. That is a real thing. It actually exists. And there is sacrificing others for the betterment of self. Right? That is the two ends. One is absolute evil and one is absolute good. But there is a bajillion different variations between that, and that is only one axis of this particular thing. There are 7 rulers. Where have we heard 7 before? Right? There are 7 deadly sins. Right? I would have to get up and walk right over here to read them off to you, right? But lust and wrath and pride and greed. Like, you know the list. I've got the list. You probably don't know the list. But these are the 7. These are the things that you are to balance in your life. God, the mind, being both male and female, is telling you to balance your life. If you are a man, you need to embrace, not to extremes, your feminine side. You need to be in touch with your emotions. You need to be able to communicate effectively your emotions. You need to be able to express yourself without violence. These are all steps that you have to take with one of the 7 rulers. These are the 7 facets of God. These are the 7 faces of God. The temptations and the virtues, because for every temptation, there is a virtue on the other side of it. And the balance therein is the balance of the masculine and feminine. Now, if you're a female, I can't speak experientially on your experience, but you need to learn to be a little more aggressive. You need to assert yourself in a more masculine sense. You need to incorporate that into yourself, not to excess. You're not a man. You're a woman. And it's okay to be a little masculine. It's okay to be a lot masculine. How you are created is how you are meant to experience this life. All of these things are true, and anyone telling you any different is trying to hold you back. Those are the control mechanisms that have been put in place. Those are the things that I am breaking down. Being male and female both means balance your life. These 7 rulers begin again into the 8th. That makes the harmony, the octave. But they also overlay with your own particular chakra stack, right? We'll probably get into that here in just a little bit. So I'm not going to get into that quite yet, but we're almost there. Straight away from out, the downward elements of God's reason leaped up to nature's pure formation and was at one with the formative mind. Now, I have done Plato's Critias and Timaeus and several other works, and this is contained in there as well. And I've talked about that part before. The formative mind is you making the decision to put the thing in the box. Then, the formative mind had one with reason, he who surrounds the spheres and spins them with his whirl, setting turn his formations, and let them turn from a beginning boundless unto an endless end, for that the circulation of these spheres begins where it doth end, as mind doth will. And from the downward elements nature brought forth lives, reasonless, and he did not extend the reason to them. The air brought forth things winged, the water things that swim, and earth and water one from another parted, as mind willed. And from her bosom earth produced what lives she had, 4-footed things and reptiles, beasts, wild and tame. So this is just a creation story, right? But the formative mind, or the logos of God, created the experience for the experience's sake. We are here at the will of God. He could wake up or dismiss or do whatever it was that he wanted to do at any point in time. But he has created for us this experience. Whether it's a computer simulation and one day it will crash, whether it is just completely random, I do not buy it all. The simulation has its merits in the argument, but there are deficiencies to it. We're not going to deep dive into that. What else did I need? And then there was just a creation of the things, and that each thing has its dominion over things. But the All-Father, mind, being light, life and light, did bring forth man, co-equal with himself, with whom he fell in love, and, being his own child, for he was beautiful beyond compare, the image of his sire, in very truth, God fell in love with his own form, and on him did bestow all his own formations. And when he gazed upon what the informer had created in the Father, man too wished to inform, and so assent was given him by the Father, changing his state to the formative sphere. In that he was to have his whole authority, he gazed upon his brother's creatures. They fell in love with him and gave him each a share of his own ordering. And after that he had well learned their essence and become a sharer in their nature, and he had a mind to break right through the boundary of their spheres, and to subdue the might of that which pressed upon the fire. Now, this is interesting. God did bring forth man co-equal to himself. That does not mean you are a god. You can take it that way. Lots of people take it that way. but it is a fallacy. It is not like you are not ever separated from God. You are separated from the will of God. You are not God, but you are a piece of God. These are truths that can coexist at the same time. But you have been designated with creation. Go forth, be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth, and be stewards thereof, are all part of creating. But in addition to this, knock and the door will be opened. Seek and ye shall find. Ask and ye shall receive, are all manifestation techniques. You have been given the power to manifest in your life, even according to some more restrictive of the tenets. And when he gazed on what the informer had created in the Father, man too wanted to inform it. So he was given that. He was taken from the sphere of existence into the sphere of formation. He was given his own share of the ordering of the things created. That is an echo. Well, the Adamic story is an echo of this. And after they had earned their essence and become a sharer in their nature, he had a mind to break right through the boundary of their spheres and to subdue the might of that which pressed upon the fire. There are things that are possible that you should never do. So, he who hath the whole authority over all the mortals in the cosmos, and over its lives irrational, bent his face downwards through the harmony, breaking right through its strength, and showed to downward nature God's fair form. And when she saw that form of beauty which can never satiate, and him who now possessed within himself each single energy of all 7 rulers, as well as God's own form, she smiled with love, for 'twas as though she'd seen the image of man's fairest form upon her water, his shadow on her earth. He, in turn, beholding the form like to himself, existing in her water, loved it, and willed to live in it. And with the will came act, and so he vivified the form, devoid of reason. And nature took the object of her love, and wound herself completely around him, and they were intermingled, for they were lovers. So, he who had whole authority over all the mortals in the cosmos bent his face downwards through the harmony, breaking through its strength, and showed that downward nature's God's fair form. The man who was created was pressed into nature and became the ruler thereof nature, but also possessed within himself each single energy of all 7 rulers. We will be getting back into it, but there are 7 internal chakras and 1 external chakra. The 7 internal chakras correlate with the 7 facets in a unique way in each unique person, but they all do. They are ordered in a specific order. They have Roy G. Biv from bottom to top, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. They're each have their own dominion over things, and that is contained further down, so we're not going to get into it too far, but this is an expression of that. The 7 in heaven was 1, and the 8th is the beginning of the new. The 7 in you is 1, and the 8th is the beginning of the new. You have control over all 8 of the chakras. Nature, the incorporation of the 7, becomes you being able to create and manifest and do and create. And so that is what is being described here as her wounding herself completely around him, and they were intermingled. And this is why, beyond all creatures on earth, man is twofold. Mortal because of body, but because of the essential man, immortal. Though deathless and possessed of sway over all, yet doth he suffer as mortal doth, subject to fate. Thus, though above the harmony, within the harmony he hath become a slave. Though male or female, as from a father male female, and though he sleepless from a sleepless, yet he is overcome by sleep. There is the theory, and it plays well into my personal beliefs, that life is the dream. That where we are when we're not here is the actual reality. And that is, in part, what is being put here. There is but one life. You may have multiple experiences, but you have this life one time, right? You could have had another life one time before, and you might have another life one time after, but you have this life as your mind one time. You have chosen willingly to come into the not harmony, right? The discordance of life. The harmony is God. The not God is the discordance, or, if you would prefer, hell of existence. And thereon, I say, teach on, O mind of me, for I myself am well amorous of the word. And the shepherd said, This is the mystery kept hid until this day. Nature, embraced by man, brought forth a wonder, oh so wonderful. For, as he had the nature of the concord of the seven, who, as I said to thee, were made of fire and spirit, nature delayed not, but immediately brought forth 7 men, in correspondence with the natures of the 7, male and female, and moving in the air. Thereon, O shepherd, for now I am filled with great desire, and long to hear, do not run off. And the shepherd said, Keep silence, for not as yet have I unrolled for thee the first discourse. Lo, I am still, I said. In such a wise, then, as I have said, the generation of these 7 came to pass. Earth was as woman, her water filled with longing. Ripeness she took from fire, spirit from ether. Nature thus brought forth frames to suit the form of man. And man from life and light changed his into soul and mind. From life and soul, from light to mind. And thus continued all the sense worlds, all the sense worlds parts, until the period of their end and new beginnings. This is the incorporation of the 7, right? The creation of people of 7 types is an interesting thing. But this is the incorporation. Now listen to the rest of the discourse, which thou dost long to hear. The period being ended, the bond that bound them all was loosened by God's will. For all the animals, being male female, at the same time with man, were loosed apart. Some became partly male, some in like fashion partly female. And straightway God spake by his holy word, Logos. Increase ye in increasing, and multiply in multitude, ye creatures and creations all. And mind that hath mind in man, that hath mind in him, let him learn to know that he himself is deathless, and that the cause of death is love, though love is all. So, The period being ended, the bond that bound them all was loosed by God's will, that is, the speaking of Logos into existence. For all the animals being male and female at the same time with man were loosed apart. Some became partly male and some in fashion partly female. That is the incorporation of the masculine and feminine, not the current delusion. And straightway God spake by his holy word. Increase and increasing and multiply by multitude, ye creatures and creation. Is what we talked about before. Go forth and be fruitful, multiply, subdue the earth. Any man that has mind in him, that is, whoever is using his mind to seek the things of God, let him know that he himself is deathless. That doesn't mean that other people die, but they intentionally choose that by not choosing to change. And that the cause of death is love, though love is all. The cause of death is the ending of the experience, and the experience is by love. I know this is me grasping for straws in this particular part, right? But that seems to be the most logical procession of this, based off of what I already know. So, when he said this, his forethought did, by means of fate and harmony, affect their couplings, and their generations founded. And so all things were multiplied according to their kind. And he who thus hath learned to know himself hath reached that good which doth transcend abundance. But he, through a love that leads astray, expends his love. Upon this body he stays in darkness, wandering and suffering through his senses things of death. All things are multiplied according to their kind. The things that you put out are the things which will return to you. These are contained in the 8. And so this is in the effect of creating. All things are multiplied according to their kind. And he who thus learned to know himself has reached that good which transcends abundance. If you are in dire straits and you are having trouble feeding yourself, it is hard to understand this particular concept. But there are things that transcend abundance. There are manifestations of the spirit as well as the physical. And so the best things to manifest in your life are the things on the spiritual side of things. But he, through love that leads astray, expends his love upon his body. Right? So if you were focused upon spending your love on other people, because love is all, if you are spending your love on other people, then when the end comes, you will transcend the abundance. But if you are spending your love on yourself, when the end comes, you will still be here because you are choosing this existence in that manner. He stays in darkness, wandering and suffering through his senses things of death. What is so great fault, said I, the ignorant commit, that they should be deprived of deathlessness? Thou seemst, he said, O thou, not to have given heed to what thou heardst. Did I not bid thee think? Yea, I do think, and I remember, and therefore give thee things. If thou didst think thereon, said he, tell me, why do they merit death who are in death? It is because the gloomy darkness is the root and base of the material frame. And from it come the moist nature, and from this the body in the sense world was composed, and from this the body, death, doth the water drain. The body. Right was thy thought, O thou, but how doth he who knows himself go unto him, as God's word has declared? And I reply, the Father of the universals doth consist of light and life, and from him man was born. Thou sayest well, thus speaking, light and life is Father God, and from him man was born. If then thou learnest that thou art thou thyself of light and life, and that thou happens to be out of them, and shalt return again to life, thus did man shepherd speak. But tell me further, mind of me, I cried, how shall I come to life again? For God doth say, the man who hath mind in him, let him learn to know that he himself is deathless. Have not all men then mind? Thou sayest well, O thou, thus speaking I. Mind, myself am present with holy men and good, the pure and merciful, men who live piously. To such, my presence doth become an aid, and straightway they gain gnosis of all things, gnosis meaning knowledge, and win the Father's love by their pure lives, and give him thanks, invoking on him blessings, and chanting hymns, intent on him with ardent love. And ere they give the body up unto its proper death, they turn them with disgust from its sensations, from knowledge of what things they operate. Nay, it is I, the mind, that will not let the operations which befall the body work to their natural end. For, being doorkeeper, I'll close up all the entrances, and cut the mental actions off which base and evil energies induce. But to the mindless ones, the wicked and depraved, the envious and covetous, and those who do murder, do and love impiety, I am far off, yielding my place to the avenging demon, who, sharpening the fire, tormenteth him, and addeth fire to fire upon him, and rusheth on him through his senses, thus rendering him the readier for transgressions of the law, so that he meets with greater torment. Nor doth he ever cease to have desires for appetites inordinate, insatiably striving in the dark. Well hast thou taught me all, as I desired, O mind. Now, pray, tell me further of the nature of the way above, as now it is for me. And to this man shepherd said, when thy material body is to be dissolved, first thou surrenderest the body by itself into the work of change, and thus the form thou hadst does vanish, and thou surrenderest thy way of life, void of his energy, unto the demon. The body's senses next pass back into their sources, becoming separate, and resurrect as energies, and passion and with desire withdraw unto that nature which is void of reason. And thus it is that man doth speed his way thereafter upwards through harmony. Life is a toroid. If you don't know what a toroid is, it's a donut. It has no beginning, it has no end. It's kind of a cyclical, energetic force, and it goes like this, but it's going like this at the same time. There is emanations from the top and the bottom. It is like a magnetic field. It is exactly like a magnetic field. And so, life is a toroid, and you traverse through it, right? This is somewhat being described here. You pass through and recycle and come back again, right? It is not a beginning and an end, but a beginning and an end of this experience. There is an experience after this. There was an experience prior to this. That is both corporeal and incorporeal form. And so, what you know of as here does not necessarily constitute all of existence. Life is a toroid. And thus it is that man doth speed his way thereafter upwards through the harmony being the toroid, right? God gazed down through the toroid, man goes up through the toroid. And to the first zone, he gives the energy of growth and waning. And unto the second zone, device of evils, now de-energized. Unto the third, the guile of desires, de-energized. Unto the fourth, his domineering arrogance, also de-energized. Unto the fifth, unholy daring, and the rashness of audacity, de-energized. Unto the sixth, striving for wealth by evil means, deprived of its aggrandizement. And to the seventh zone, ensnaring falsehood, de-energized. I told y'all we would be back to the chakras. So, what do we have described here, right? The chakras, duh. The first zone is your base chakra. It is the energy of growth, and waning. And it's the only one that you're born with energized. You have the ability to subsist and exist without even full knowledge, right? Apes do it, chickens do it, various animals throughout the entirety of creation do it. They operate on a base level with a sexual level, like they have pieces of what we have, but they don't have the fullness of what we have. Everything shares in common the growth, right? The base chakra. It is generally characterized as red, and it is at the very bottom of your butthole. If you squeeze your butthole, you are flexing that particular chakra. That is how you draw energy into it and how you express that energy away from it. The second zone, the device of evils, is your sacral chakra. It is the sexual energy. It is the trickster energy. It is the first one that you have to willfully energize. You have to overcome it in order to proceed along the stack upwards. You can indeed flex that too. It is a slight thrusting forward motion. Onto the third, the guile of desires, is your solar plexus. It is the part that feeds you. It is what you desire. It is de-energized. And so you, after doing the trickster, the sacral, and you proceed to the solar plexus, you have to energize that. The sacral is generally orange. The solar plexus is yellow. Onto the fourth, his domineering arrogance. That's your heart. It is your ego. It is the part that ties together the base, which is mere existence, with the upper, which is willful existence. It is the part that allows the manifestation through the proper techniques. It is the part that you use the jumper cables on for the other parts. It is your ego. In order to incorporate that, you have to use love. And there are many different layers to this particular part of the lesson. I'm trying not to be too over. I have covered a lot of it in the other videos. This is green. There are also frequencies associated with it. I have a video on that too. On to the fifth. That is the throat. That is blue. That is the speaking. It is unholy daring and rashness of audacity. It is, how dare you speak this thing? How dare you speak into existence? How dare you be rash and daring? How dare you offend people? How dare you? How dare you? This is the daring. It is blue. It again has to be energized. There are steps that have to be taken in order to energize that. We have covered that, I believe, elsewhere. If not, let me know and we will get into it. Onto the sixth, the third eye. Now, a lot of people like to think that it is right here, and you're kind of sort of maybe right. There's a piece of it that extends almost that far, but if you go from your temples, like right here, right above your ears, right, and then you go from that point where you think the third eye is to right here in the back where the center of where your skull is, and you draw a line between the 4 points, right, between here and here, between here and here. The intersection of that just happens to coincide with your pineal gland. Guess what? Your pineal gland is your third eye. You can open it. There is no water holding you back. Nothing can keep you from activating that which you are determined to activate, but you need to take the correct steps in order to do that. We didn't talk about the flexing of the other ones, right? You can flex your solar plexus. It is kind of like crunching in. Act like you're going to lift your legs up and you bring your body down. That is a crunch. That feeds there. Your chest is more of an extension outwards because the energy has to move in a different direction. There has to be a turning. Looks remarkably like the interior of the Great Pyramid. And the energy has to come up and it has to turn. And it has to go through your throat and it has to come up and it has to turn again to go into your third eye. But you can flex you flex your throat. If you want to flex your throat, I've covered this before, but if you want to flex your throat, the way that you do that is if you take your tongue and you go and try to touch where the soft palate and the hard palate meet, right? Not all the way back to the uvula, you don't have to get that far. But right where the shift is, there's an indentation. It has little ridges. You can feel those ridges. If you run your tongue back and you, from where your teeth start, run your tongue back across the ridge of your hard palate to the soft palate, that action is flexing your throat. The third eye. You want to flex your third eye. In order to break the calcification, this is a necessary step. You have to put your tongue in the place where we just talked about, and you have to force the energy through the flexation of all the chakras up through the tongue into the third eye and flex it forward at the same time. How do you flex it? Have you ever tried to pop your ears? Just like, that's it. That's what's happening there. If you are doing that in an intentional manner with the energy going in the correct manner, you can trigger things. And then that was the sixth. Striving for wealth goes through your third eye. That is the downfall of you searching for the wealth, right? You are trying to see your way forward in life through your third eye. And part of that is the striving for wealth. That is the shadow part of that. There is another part of that, which is eschewing the wealth for the benefit of men, right? That is the extremes. You are supposed to be in the middle. And then, and the seventh zone, ensnaring falsehood, is your divine chakra, which rests right here. Half of it is in your head, half of it is out of your head, right in the soft spot on a baby, right? Right where all the plates of your skull come together. Part of it is in and part of it is out, and I can do it well. You can flex your scalp. You may not have realized that before today, but it is a possibility. And through practice, you can flex that particular chakra with that. And then, this is indigo, this is violet, right? I think that covers everything. I've talked about all of these things before. It is in a whole separate video, and if you did not watch the other video, I don't blame you. You didn't know what you were getting into. And then, with all the energizings of the harmony stripped from him and clothed in his proper power, he come to that nature which belongeth unto the eighth, and there with those that are hymneth the Father. They who are there welcome his coming with their joy, and he, made like to them that sojourn there, doth further hear the powers who are above the nature that belongeth to the eighth, singing their song of praise to God in language of their own. And then they in a band go to the Father's home. Of their own selves they make surrender of themselves to powers, and thus becoming powers, they are in God. This is the good end for those who have gained gnosis, to be made with one with God. Why shouldst thou then delay? Must it not be, since thou hast all received, that thou should to the worthy point the way, in order that through thee the race of mortal kind may by thy God be saved? Okay, the eighth chakra. This one's a little bit controversial. If you are familiar with my works, it's not in the least bit controversial, but Some people don't even believe that it is a thing because it exists on the exterior of you. If you reach out your hands as far as you can, right? Fingertips extended so that they're flat out. That is the scope of the circle that is squaring you. And with that circle, you can see it. Da Vinci did a nice little drawing, right? You can see the circle that surrounds. It extends past you for a distance that depends upon you and where you are, but it encompasses you completely. The color is white mixed with black. It is the harmonization and complete separation. So it is not gray. It is not white exclusive. It is not black exclusive. But you can see them separately together in the field if it is properly balanced. If it is all white, you are probably not balanced. If it is all black, you are probably not balanced. If it is showing a particular color, then that particular spot in your chain is not balanced. It will only show the correct colors when you are balanced. Did I say balanced enough? Did y'all get that? Oh, you have this power. It is the creative force. It is the spirit. You are encompassed by the spirit, which is the nature. It is the becoming. It is the thing you speak into. To your box. Using your jumper cables. I don't know that I can make it any more plain than that. This, when he had said, man's shepherd mingled with the powers. But I, with thanks and blessing unto the Father of the universal powers, was freed, full of the power he had poured into me, and full of what he had taught me of the nature of the all, and of the loftiest vision. And I began to preach to men the beauty of devotion and of gnosis. O ye people, earth-born folk, ye who have given yourselves to drunkenness and sleep and ignorance of God, be sober now, cease from your surfeit, cease to be glamored by irrational sleep. I will go ahead and say here, I disagree. It is not the complete eschewing that you should be doing. It is instead finding the balance. You can drink recreationally. You can do any of the things in moderation. That does not mean that you can never transgress someone else. You can never force your will upon someone else. But within your own sovereignty, you can have a drink. But if you're turning the drink into the thing that you worship, if it is your heart's desire, I can't wait to get off of work and drink a beer, you're doing the wrong thing. That is the limitation that is placed upon all 7 of the various vices and virtues. You're not to completely abstain. There is no growth in abstain. There is no growth in sterility. There is no growth in never making the choice to do. That is not to say to do wrong. That is not to say that if you have a problem with alcohol, that you should go drink. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you should be in control of that. And you know that you can't have that drink, so you are in control of that. But there are other things that maybe you can do. Right? Maybe it's okay for you to smoke weed and not drink. That is a hypothetical. I am not recommending that. It's not medical advice or anything of that nature. What I'm saying is that there is a balance to be maintained. And if you are completely abstaining and hurting yourself by doing so that you are consumed by the thought of the thing, it is just as bad as doing the thing. And some of them, with jest upon their lips, departed from me, abandoning themselves unto the way of death. Others entreated to be taught, casting themselves before my feet. But I made them arise. I became a leader of the race towards home, teaching the words, how and in what way they shall be saved. I sowed in them the words of wisdom. Of deathless water they were given to drink. And when even was come, and all sun's beams began to set, I bade them all give thanks to God. And when they had placed to an end the giving of their thanks, each man returned to his own resting place. But I recorded in my heart man's shepherd's benefaction, and with my every hope fulfilled more than rejoiced. For body's sleep became the soul's awakening, the closing of the eyes, true vision, pregnant with good my silence and utterances of my word, begetting of good things. All this befell me from my mind, that is, man's shepherd, word, logos, of all masterhood, by whom, God inspired, I came unto the plane of truth. Wherefore, with all my soul and strength thanksgiving give I unto Father God. Living in thankfulness is the surest way to turn your life around. It is the surest way to bring in uncompromised blessings. Holy art thou, O God, the universal's Father. Holy art thou, O God, whose will perfects itself by means of its own powers. Holy art thou, O God, who willeth to be known and art known by thine own. Holy art thou, who didst by word make to consist the things that are. Holy art thou, of whom all nature hath been made an image. Holy art thou, whose form nature never hath made. Holy art thou, more powerful than all power. Holy art thou, transcending all preeminence. And holy art thou, thou better than all praise. You are not God, and God alone is worthy of praise. Accept my reasons, offerings pure from soul and heart, for I stretched up to thee, thou, O thou unutterable, unspeakable, whose name naught but the silence can express. Give ear to me who pray, that I may never of gnosis fail, gnosis, which is our common being's nature, and fill me with thy power and with this grace of thine, that I may give the light to those in ignorance of the race, my brethren, and thy sons. For this cause I believe and I bear witness. I go to life and light. Blessed art thou, O Father. Thy man would be holy as thou art holy, even as thou gavest him thy full authority to be. And so ends chapter 1, and we had a lot in this, right? May I ever be searching for the knowledge that is God. May I never be certain that I know. I have a very good approximation in my own estimation as to what, but even then I can't really conceive. Is it a man sitting outside of the scope of space and time? That's a little bit much for me, but it could be somebody playing a video game. That's entirely possible. It could be a figment of an imagination. It could be a simulation. It could be a whole myriad of possibilities, and none of that really matters to me because I watched creation unfold. Is it in a way that I can prove to you? Absolutely not. It was in here. You can't go there. But I can tell you about it. You can see it written 4,000 years ago. Right? We went through that. It's probably 2500 BC. Contemporaneous with Moses. Not derived from that, but contemporaneous with, which means about the same time. And so it is entirely possible that this knowledge and that knowledge are the same knowledge given by the same people to different people for different purposes. Be ever seeking. Always search for knowledge. Make sure you follow the 8 laws of creation. It is fundamentally important that you follow the 8 laws of creation. There are keys to knowledge, which I have pointed out all through this, right? The things that I have spoken on, I speak with authority. You don't have to believe me. I'm okay with that. I'm on my little obscure piece of the internet and I'm talking about things that most people are not going to listen to me read this. If you have come this far, you were destined for this. I fully believe that. Most people will hear my voice and simply because of my voice are going to click off. Or they're going to be like, wait, you're reading the book? I don't want that. They click off. I'm not here for everyone. I'm here for everyone, but I'm not here for everyone. I'm here for those that God brings to me. I am in service to Him, and there are pearls that we are casting out. Don't be swine. Don't be dogs yapping at the table. Sit at the table and eat. Pull up a chair. Grab your reins in the race for the kingdom, right? We are running a race here. We are having an experience here. And the more love that you can sow everywhere, the better off we are all going to be. The more people that come to the knowledge contained in this single chapter, the better we are. There's more to come. We're going to get a little bit deeper as we go a little bit farther along into this book. This is only level 1, level 2 levels of knowledge here. This is only the beginning of levels of responsibility. There are levels of responsibility. If you enact the things that we talk about, you are responsible. You know what you are doing. Make sure you get back and watch some videos 3 times again. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a very complicated topic. This is the fundamentals of life. This is the harmonics explained 4,000 years ago. That is impressive. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. This has been Pit Steak. Peace.